Yeah, Linkovich Chomovsky.
Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody, for the week of November. Gosh dang it, I just looked it up. 8th? Thank you. I'm Ryan Miller, and that is Free Guy himself, Matt Amberg.
8 is great.
That is great. And we're doing Free Guy absolutely on Book Club for Movies this week, where we watch one movie a week. And if you do it too, you can find us at podcast at bookclubformovies.com or Facebook and Twitter and Patreon also. In fact, this particular patron has been around since the beginning of time, friend of the show, endless, perpetual, eternal friend of the show, Adam. We've just been doing first names for patrons, so I don't want to change now. But if
we call him the perpetuator,
we do. Let's just say there have been jokes in the past about this particular Adam, whether or not he's played PC games, if that's any indication. So
I don't think he's ever played video games, still my understanding.
Well, now that he's a patron, I think we should probably set the record straight.
Yes.
During this awkward podcast shout out for him, our patron and friend, Adam.
Canadian Adam. Yeah, the truth is the first time he came to PAX was the first time as a Canadian or a human he'd ever seen a video game.
It's very true. He's never touched a PC in his life. To this day, I don't believe has any indication.
The closest thing to a PC he has ever touched is one of those Texas Instruments calculators that were so confusing. So cool. They're so confusing. I'm not a math guy. And I just looked at them and I went, program button, and then I've got all these cool shapes, and what was the Ziggy Zag guy doing? And when I did that, how come the numbers had letters in them? And then here was a thing. Remember when invisible numbers, is it invisible numbers? Invisible numbers?
Oh, you're slightly ringing a bell, but no, I don't remember that.
They existed, and you're like, wait, what?
Adam might actually know what we're talking about right now.
Because he spent his time educating himself, getting married, having a lovely life, having a beautiful wife and a beautiful daughter. Congratulations on that. Yeah. Canada is better off for that. But
never seen a PC.
For a movie podcast, he's never seen video games. Doesn't know what a PC is.
That's true. Actually, and it's appropriate here. Maybe that's the lesson to be learned, is that in this particular venue right now, it's a strength.
Yeah.
And not a weakness. Actually, that's not true, because this week we're doing Free Guy.
Free Guy video games! Hey, this movie is PAX. Is the movie. It's not.
Oh boy. Yeah. I've hinted at the fact that we're going to get way too deep into this. So maybe before we do, Matt, do you have a synopsis to get us in the mood?
In the mood?
For Free Guy.
Cue the sexy music. This is a moment when I wish you would take the time to add the
I told you this.
I know it's hard.
Or maybe I didn't. In the lead up to recording personalized messages for people, we need to rejigger our stuff so that we can record audio from different places at different times along with video. And I have got the program, one of the programs, no, there's many, but I've downloaded Loopback and tested it out over this weekend like I said I would. So with that has come the ability to loop in a soundboard. Yes.
Oh, I can't wait.
I don't know, because we record separately. I don't know if that gets into the show. Like, I'd probably still have to go back and put the sounds in separately. But at the very least, I can play you sounds from any soundboard at all.
I want it recorded so bad. Sexy music, go. Free Guy is going to come at you hour and 55 minutes. Written by Matt Lieberman and Zach Penn. Directed by Sean Levy. Starring Ryan Reynolds, Jodie Comer, Lil Rel Howery, Joe Keery, and Taika Waititi. Here is your Book Club for Movie synopsis for Free Guy. When a couple of video game designers realize they've been taken advantage of, they immerse themselves in the world they created to find proof, only to find their creation itself may be evolving in ways they had never, ever thought of.
I love it. An appropriately too deep synopsis from Matt Amberg, because
I love you, but I'm in too deep.
Although, you know what? Before maybe we go in that direction, we'll go in the Sean Levy direction, because he's one of those directors where I feel like every time you hear about a movie of his, you think, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, please list me because I know the name.
So let's see if I can do it for you right now. Are you ready?
I'm feeling like
Cheaper by the dozen.
Pixels is going to be in here somehow, but
It's not. No, that's what is that dude's name? I'm not even gonna.
we don't want to know. Beth and I were legitimately just talking about this movie because we were talking about. I'm going to take you on a side trip here because we're going to get weird
Cheaper
into
by the
Free
dozen
Guy.
or
yes,
Free
Cheaper
Guy?
by the dozen.
Oh, okay, good.
So I'm going to take just short little trip. As you do when we're doing chores and stuff, we just throw the TV on and we typically put on something we've already watched. The thing that's on right now is, of course, 30 Rock. Somehow we got to the amazing, maybe best Steve Martin cameo of all time, where he's the lunatic in the house that's like he's in trouble for embezzling everything, and he tries to tell Liz, "I love you, Liz," but then he's basically using her as just a way to break out of the house. Anyways, we got into this long, weird discussion about Steve Martin and then how that
Beautiful.
current show that's on Only Murders in the Building, I think is what it's called. Only Murders in the Apartment, something like that. Right. How that's kind of this weird show that exists and is kind of super interesting and fun. And we went down this rabbit hole of talking about movies that she had never seen. And she's seen most of the classic ones, but she's never seen Cheaper by the Dozen. And
the original.
And I happen to really love that stupid series, those first two movies.
Right up my wife's alley. That is all of her stuff right there.
I love it. They're Tom Welling, delightful. Piper Perabo, again, delightful. Love seeing her in something where she's just kind of fun and happy and upbeat and just gets to just act and have fun. And that's the thing. Like, those movies are pure just like they get to have fun, and I love it. And then the first movie, the entire purpose on the beach with at the lake with the back and forth with the other family is friggin' hilarious. And the Olympics,
you've surpassed I haven't seen them, so
I'm not gonna lie, your wife is spot on. And let me ask, I have to ask this.
Okay,
you may have to ask Candy because you may not know. Does she love the movie The Cutting Edge with D.B. Sweeney? And
see, I love that's how close we are. Is that you have my wife's number so well at this point? Yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding?
It is one of my all-time favorite movies. Not even joking.
Well, yes,
utterly love it.
Maybe not entirely representative because it is an excellent movie, but. No, yes, very much.
I was just curious.
I want to say brought it to my attention. I don't think I knew it existed before.
The sequel's garbage, but the first one with D.B. Sweeney, love it.
I hate to hear it. Okay. So you knew that Cheaper by the Dozen was a Sean Levy bit.
As soon as you tell me it's I see it absolutely.
Okay, what about this one? I feel like this is an even better one for. Oh yes, of course. The Pink Panther from 2006.
Sure. Sticking with the Steve Martin thing, sure.
And then I feel like everybody knows that when he became a name for me was the Night at the Museum movies, of course.
Right. So, okay. Yeah.
Those are him. But then also Date Night and Real Steel.
Freaking Real Steel.
Real Steel.
Still rocks.
Real Steel rocks.
Yeah. I admittedly, I gotta say, my disappointment finding out that. What's her name? I've had to ignore her now. Wasp.
Evangeline.
Yeah,
maybe?
She's a crazy person or something. She's like an anti-vax or some nonsense. Disappointing.
It happens.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy, does it. Let me tell you. Disappointment abounds for my sport team. Oh.
So Sean Levy, I feel like you know what you're gonna get, I think is kind of my point.
Yeah, he is an extremely competent director. I think what's funny is when I think of all the things he's done, he's also the guy that I would say he is the guy that I feel like Brett Ratner wants to be.
Ooh. He's Brett Ratner light. I feel like
except
you lose
he's
some
better
of the darker.
He's better than Brett Ratner.
Well,
and that's what I'm saying is I give Sean Levy Brett Ratner movies. And I bet they're better. They're going to be better.
Also, his name is Levy. It's like he's a light man. There's a lightness about him in his movies.
There's a levity. He seems like a good Jewish boy.
But then for this particular movie, you throw into the mix video games. And I feel like,
Sure.
who knows, right? I think, in fact, Free Guy was something that was being made when Disney acquired Fox. So there was a pause and a restart. In fact, I want to say it was the first production technically under Disney Fox. And then COVID hit. So it hit its fair share of speed bumps.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I would still say video games was the biggest question mark. Whenever it collides with movies, we just never know.
It's yeah, hit or miss, mostly miss. Let's be real.
But the premise, I think, was super easily graspable, right? Like, I remember hearing that he was an NPC, like Ryan Reynolds plays an NPC in this movie that's coming out or something like that. And you just instantly know, or at least we instantly knew what that was in a way,
right,
kind of without knowing anything else. We're like,
absolutely.
Oh yeah, I could see how that would provide a lot of fodder.
That is like, as an elevator pitch, by the way, that right
also,
there,
yeah.
talking to if you can find the executive who knows what video games are to say that to them, that's like, that had to be a mind blower to somebody to go, how has nobody thought of this? How have we not done this? Somebody give this man millions.
Well, that's a pretty good question, because I feel like even when video game movies are done right, assuming that's happened, there's always this, you just never know if the person in charge really knows what they're doing, because video games have also become so prolific or
ubiquitous.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
That to some extent, everybody can hear the word video game movie and think they know what they're doing, including directors and movie makers and executives, surely to some extent. So I feel like that's one of the reasons for it too. So you never know. Like, is this going to be the video game movie for the child made by the executive child that, or is there really going to be something for us, people that do love video games? And I think what tickled me more than anything when I started hearing about this thing is because I've always been super attached to this systems version of video games. And I'm not saying that very well, but one of the things that has always interested me about video games more than any other medium is their reliance on systems and how they interact and interplay with one another.
Sure.
Like, name another medium. Film approximates it, especially when you get into the craft and the art and the grammar and stuff like that. You can certainly go down some rabbit holes and stuff begins to interact. But when it comes to games, that was always something that I feel like reached a different level and was unique to that medium, like makes that medium.
Well, because it's not like, even film, even in digital film, right? While it's a conglomeration of and a union of so many different disciplines, they're all extremely physical. Like, you see the boom mic, you see
right,
the camera, you see the editing table. Like, all of these things are things where, okay, I know what those all are. Video games are like, you stop and you think, especially so for anybody who's continued on with us past Zero Hit Points or is familiar.
Sure.
One of the best things we ever discussed and talked about and learned about, in my opinion, was the finding out how Miyamoto made like Super Mario Brothers and how it was all done on graph paper.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like, that's okay. So taking the step back, right? You've gone from taking these graph paper things where essentially what we're talking about here is it's still all under the hood, but it's a little easier to understand. You've got a simple layered background. This is kind of more of an animation thing, right? You've got the same background that just kind of flows no matter where you go. And then the person can only move left and right. And you can do just a couple basic things. Super Mario Brothers at its like core is like 10 things that you can do.
Right.
Now take that and giant size it. And go from 1984, 1985, whenever Super Mario Brothers comes out, to 1999 when Grand Theft Auto 3 hits, or whatever year that came out.
Sure.
And it's like, and you've gone leaps and bounds. Now we've gone leaps and bounds from that, and leaps and bounds from that. But the idea that you're talking about, I think, is still, to me, also one of those fascinating things, like how the systems of, you've got to have now when you're talking about video games, you talk about a Grand Theft Auto or a Red Dead Redemption, or I mean, you know, just about anything. You have all of those same things in film, but they're under the hood. There's things you can't grasp without kind of having a special knowledge to them, right? Like,
yeah, and I mean that goes both ways, certainly, and for both mediums, you know, they're both creating worlds, certainly.
Totally.
But I think your trip through history is perfect because, I mean, going from 2D to 3D is something, you know, but kind of having 3D up until now, you know, yeah, Super Mario World or whatever Super Mario 64 up until now, where especially now kind of the graphical leaps are fewer and far between, you know?
Sure.
I've heard Forza 5 looks fantastic. Forza Horizon 5 looks gorgeous, but I've also seen some screenshots of, you know, and when it comes down to meme size, it's not going to be as impressive, but the returns are lessening. So I feel like the work is being done in these other avenues that we're talking about, of world building, of
AI, of
exactly. Yes. And that is exactly where we're going. And I think the kernel of this with me resides in a story that I heard about Skyrim that I thought, oh no, I closed the tab. I'm bad at this. I searched for this story. I couldn't find it.
Your face right there, by the way, was just
I got it back. History exists. But I couldn't find this for almost an entire day, and I realized it was because the one search term I was forgetting was Game Informer, because I had read it in a print issue of Game Informer and it just isn't as indexed. Sure. So eventually I found the right words and I found the story, even though it's not credited to anyone but Todd Howard. I'm pretty sure this came from a Game Informer is why I couldn't find it. But it's a story about Oblivion when they were designing Oblivion. And I'm just going to read it verbatim here.
Verbatim.
But it says, during Oblivion, our new Radiant AI system, which would let all the NPCs in the world think and act on their own, led to some of the best bugs. So it's not even Skyrim, actually. Maybe that's why I couldn't find it also. It's Oblivion. But he says, my favorite was a quest where you had to talk to a prisoner in jail. Sometimes when playtesting, we would find him locked in his cell, dead. It took us forever to figure out why. Have you heard this?
I have, but I love it. Keep going. No, keep reading it because it's great.
Turns out the guards in the jail could run out of food and get hungry. They would then go down and kill the prisoner to take his food. All this happened when the player wasn't there. I still don't remember how we figured it out, but the solution was easy. More guard, more food. Another similar bug we found was if a person decided to sweep and didn't have a broom, he'd find and kill someone else for it. So not only is it funny that was their go-to for any of these NPCs when they didn't have a thing, it makes sense. Also, speaking of games, but I think any story like that just immediately gets me going, because it isn't just like, of course, everything isn't scripted. And for as unhappy as you can be with Oblivion or Skyrim and all the bugs that those games can have, it's because they're doing this instead of just everything is scripted, right? It's because they are trying to create systems and AI, and they're not just content. Like I said, I also love that the solution was more food. It wasn't just
to reprogram
the guards
something
so they wouldn't kill.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yes.
It's brilliant, right? And I think with those games in particular, it's part of the charm. Like, you buy those games.
Yeah.
Nobody buys those games expecting them to work. Everybody legitimately goes, okay, I can't wait for the first time I get shot off the map. I don't have guns. This is Skyrim. I'm using maybe a sword at this time, but for whatever reason, the guard hit me and I am gone.
Here I go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, if you want plenty of clips like that, just look up that quote that I said on Reddit, which is where I eventually found it. And there's just a bunch more. It'll feed you a bunch of GIFs after that. There's a pretty good one from, I'm going to guess, Ghosts of Tsushima, where he kicks the dude off a cliff. You seen that?
And then he goes, ah!
Yep,
he comes
that's
back
the one. Look it up. You'll know what we're talking about. And before, like I said, we're going to go down some rabbit holes
this
here.
Is a rabbit
I'm not
hole.
ashamed.
Yeah.
But for me personally, that's just always been the thing that has, even for a movie like iRobot, which I'm certain isn't a movie that a lot of people point to when it comes to, AI or even, good sci-fi sometimes. I like that movie.
It's fine.
But there's that bit where, like, why do they gather in a crowd in the dumpster? Like, that's not written anywhere. Ghosts in the Machine. I'm sure there are ample examples of Ghosts in the Machine that I could be using besides iRobot. But
there's literally a movie called Ghost in the Machine.
Yeah, sure.
It's a horror movie. It's pretty awful.
But stuff like that. Did I expect it in a movie like Free Guy? No, I'm not going into this thinking, oh, this is where I'm going to get some of that. I still knew what to expect from a Shawn Levy film, from the trailers, but, and I think we can get into the movie now, but we'll see, I guess. And I know this has all been talked about before. I know we're coming in late to the party on Free Guy.
We're late at everything. It's not the point. We're better at it than everybody. That's the point.
It's sure. But also, and I might write about this later on the newsletter or a Patreon post. Ooh. I don't check out any other reviews before we do our own because I don't want to be messed up. And I know that's actually kind of the opposite when it comes to trying to formulate an argument of sorts, because you want to know what the conversation is before you go into it. I don't care a lot of the times. I like to go in fresh, and like I said, I'll probably write more on this. But if you're expecting some of that, it's not going to be here. This is just us. And several weeks after having viewed the movie, I have viewed it twice. I think you were once.
I'm a oneer.
No, so I'm better. And
yep.
It's going to be a little bit of a recollection at the same time, but I think we'll get through it.
We'll get through it. It's not the story overall is pretty easy to follow and pick up on. It's
also,
not like,
yes.
It's this movie is not a complicated film by any means.
No.
But it's done so dang well that you just can't help but go, how? How does any of this work? And I mean, I guess kicking it off, so we're given the knowledge early on, right off the bat, basically, that Ryan Reynolds is a AI character. He doesn't know it. None of them know it. They're just in an AI, because the way they play it, it's the AI are, as we've been taught, by Ubisoft, they supposedly have conversations. You will run into them on the street and they'll be doing things. So sure, why wouldn't they have friends? They have their routines where their kind of path to go, and Ryan Reynolds' character Guy does all of his things. He goes and sees Laurel every day, and they chit chat, and the bank gets robbed, and
it's all humdrum in a GTA like, while all the players are around blowing stuff up and robbing banks and killing NPCs.
Yeah, and then they just it's every day. It's not a surprise day. It's just part of their day. There's no when the first bank robbery happens, they do just kind of, oh, okay, we're just going to talk and we're going to follow our steps. We're going to put our hands behind our head and lay down and just keep chatting. And it's great. That's fantastic. It's a great opening and way to set up the story that we're going to tell, because then we do get pulled out and we meet Jodie Comer's character, and Joe Keery, and there we find out that Jodie Comer and Joe Keery Joe Keery's working at the developer house, the development house that's creating this Free City, I think is the name of the game.
Free City, yep.
And Jodie Comer used to work there with him, and they had created kind of the prototype of, or maybe
did she ever work at the developer? They had created their own indie game called Free Life. Maybe no, it wasn't called that, was it? I know they had created their own indie game which was centered on AI. I believe the pitch was, what if you just sit and watch, kind of a sim.
Yeah. It was Second Life.
Yeah, there you go. Sure. Well, in part, I feel like their focus was still on the AI, obviously. And how it evolved and how they would get it to evolve. That seemed like their pitch. But yes,
sure.
I believe it was bought by the bigger company, and this is the crux of the film, is whether or not that code, the contract was that he would not roll the code into Free City, but I guess I don't remember what the exact agreement was then, if he couldn't get the code from the games, But in any event, yes, John Kerry, sorry, started working at this developer where Taika Waititi is the boss. Did you know that Taika was in this movie when you started watching it?
So I don't know. I saw it in a trailer somewhere.
All right, I totally either did not know or forgot, so it was a very pleasant surprise.
And yes, and he was delightfully smarmy and slimy in this movie.
He's great.
He's a jag.
From Hitler to Jag. I mean,
what a guy. he's hitting all of the hits. He's going through them.
But it's also super well informed, like and I'll say this about everything in the film, about what his bad guy is. He is the head of a company that is risk averse, right? Like he has the beautiful line about, you love KFC. What am I going to give you? Different food? No, I'm going to give you KFC too.
Yeah.
It's just stupid. So he's risk averse. He's got he just wants to pump out sequels, and he's reneging on all the backwards compatibility stuff. Like it even gets that down and dirty.
It's so real, man.
I just feel, no, who is going to get that?
As a gamer, don't you feel seen by this movie? Don't you you're like somebody that the people that wrote this are gamers. They definitely have the gamer in them. They like
absolutely understand. That is, I think, the craziest part about all of this, because yeah, you're right. There's not much to it. And on its surface, it is a Shawn Levy film that I think anybody can enjoy in that way. But there's so much more underneath that people interested in that will get.
Yeah, it's that this is a movie for wide audiences that has plenty of niche references that don't impact the enjoyment of the story. They're just good. They're things that, yeah, like the niche audience is going to get, it's stuff. It's even stuff like in the background of the movie, right? Like there's the bit where where people are just running into walls and they just keep moving down the
jumping
thing,
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. Like most people are going to get that. The people that don't are just going to think it's funny. It's a video game. Okay. Well, so that's that. You got it. You figured it out, but little things like that are so good because they add for the people who do care and read into the industry and they follow the news and we talk about Todd Howard. Most people don't know who Todd Howard is. To us, Todd Howard is, oh man, yeah, Todd Howard, of course, duh.
Sure.
And I think the movie does such a good job of weaving all of it together, because it does make the people like, that are super into the industry, it gives them something to sink their teeth into, along with the general story, the general movie fun. It's like, you are talking to me.
But also, I'm not embarrassed by it. Like, I don't roll my eyes at,
right.
I don't think any of it too is the thing. Like, it's still respectful, even the times where it is kind of just an Easter egg or a gag. I'm not like, fan service or something like that. Like, none of it feels like that. It feels genuine and real, and it's quite the trick, but not the biggest rabbit hole I want to go down, because you rightfully mentioned that it all is kind of humdrum and they have their scripted sequences until Jodie Comer walks by and Guy is taken by her. You can tell kind of begins to deviate, and this is really when my neurons start firing. I'm like, they're teasing sentience, they're teasing AI, like, deviating, which is the other thing, deviating from the norm, because that works on both levels. Like, you can go see any number of movies that are about, stepping outside your comfort zone or reaching for the stars or deviating from the norm, like I said,
sure,
in a positive way, to create something, to be more than you have been. Maybe this is hitting a little too close to home with the launch of the Patreon and all that kind of stuff. But
I don't know. I'm getting misty here.
But the movie somehow still delivers. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole still. Like, I don't know if it's all going to be justified what happens inside the movie. And by the end, I think they take the coward's way out. Spoiler alert. But I'm just still taken by how much there is and how well it's done. And maybe because of what I bring to it, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also, how much do we owe to Ryan Reynolds? I guess he was more involved in this than he has been in anything since Deadpool. He's out there saying, and he's probably pretty close in age to us. Has played a game or two in his life, I would guess.
Unfortunately, has been People's Sexiest Man of the Year, which how they've skipped over either of us, let alone both of us.
Well, the Patreon hadn't launched yet. Yeah, no.
It's infuriating. We're coming for you, Ray.
People Magazine has called me on my cell phone before.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not even joking.
I believe it.
And unfortunately, I don't want to say why, so I probably shouldn't have said anything at all, but let's put that in the Wikipedia.
There goes everything. That was our chance, Ryan. That was our chance. You ruined it.
Actually, you know what? I will tell you. I will tell you why they called me, and then I will say nothing else after that.
But then you can bleep it all in the thing. It'll be great for the show. Bleep it so that nobody else knows.
Okay, I guess we'll find out. It was about a murder.
Oh, it must have been at your apartment complex.
It was not.
Oh.
So
Got it.
Free Guy when
fair enough.
Jodie Comer.
And you leave things hanging like that, and boy, oh boy, does my imagination now start going. So Jodie Comer walks by. Jodie Comer of Killing Eve fame.
Okay. Jodie Comer.
She's real good in that show, by the way.
They do become friends, and he begins to want to help her, even though he doesn't know exactly what she's doing. And this leads to a bunch of fantastic conversations because she thinks he is also a player character. She thinks somebody is behind him in the real world.
Right.
So there's lots of funny bits about, like my name in the real world is actually Millie. And he looks at her like, I'm still Guy.
I'm still Guy. The dialogue in here is sharp. It's especially between those two. It's sharp. It's pretty witty. They do lean into Guy not necessarily understanding. Like you have to give them some leeway because for Guy does have a reality and it's similar to our reality, but it's not our reality. So,
yes,
So it gives them, it gives Comer and Ryan Reynolds that kind of little ballpark to play in. I think that they probably lean a little too hard on it occasionally. I felt like, if he's AI and he's that stupid,
there is some suspension and some fudging that needs to happen.
Right.
I think I'm obviously willing to go quite a ways for them and for this because so much of it is so good. Absolutely. But also I think there is a bit where it breaks down, and we'll get to that towards the end.
I'm willing to bet. I'm thinking you and I kind of are going to go down the same path on this movie, actually.
Okay. But the way those two worlds play off each other, and even just within the script, like it is motivated, like when one thing happens in the world, it causes something else to happen in the other. So they play off of each other in a way that keeps the script driven forward in just super smart ways. Like she's trying to steal a clip in the game world from this streamer, and Guy doesn't know why, but he's willing to help her. And I don't believe she gets it on the first try, but that is where they kind of come together more than before, and then they escape. She doesn't escape with the clip, I don't think, right?
No, it's not the first time. They have one more heist attempt.
And then that triggers something in the real world that happens. This is where having watched the movie much sooner might come in handy, but I do have it written down in my notes, so it's true. The way those two worlds interact off each other and the way they're written is very well done.
Absolutely. She comes back into the real world, though, and that's when she gets, after she's met Guy and tried, that's when she and Joe Keery, we find out that they were together at one point and they developed together, and that they had, I don't remember why they broke up or why, but there was a fundamental, and it may have been him taking the job at the big company or something.
It had definitely something to do with that, because like I said, I don't think she ever ended up herself at the company.
I feel like she quit or got fired or something, but maybe I don't remember that.
Could have been. Yeah, I think the movie's not as concerned with it, and that's probably
why.
I
mean, I was barely, honestly, as much as I like Joe Keery and I think he's fun in the movie, he's not. I'm not. Whatever. I'm more interested in the Guy situation and in the video game stuff personally.
I like Joe Keery. In fact, we just watched all 3 seasons of Stranger Things with my daughter this past Ween season. But yes, I feel like you want to watch Ryan Reynolds and Jodie Comer forever.
Right.
And I think he should have been able to, but like I said, we'll get there.
Let's get there. Let's stop teasing it. Let's get there.
Is there anything else you wanted to mention leading up to the end?
No. I don't. Again, the movie is very kind of a paint by numbers story about you can almost look at it like if you took it down like a couple of years, it's like the Jodie Comer's a teenager and she's got a 10-year-old that doesn't really know anything about the world in love with her and is willing to do anything because he's a puppy dog, you know what I mean? It's very much so that story where Ryan Reynolds is a puppy dog that's just a smarter than average puppy dog. And Lil Rel's great when he shows up in it. He's not in the movie a ton either. It really, the only people that show up are that kind of key four are Comer, Keary, Reynolds, and Waititi. Everybody else that is a name or even remotely involved in the movie is in and out real fast. So Lil Rel doesn't
supporting, certainly.
Yeah, extremely supporting. Lil Rel has a couple of moments though where his character kind of gets a moment to grow, and that's fun. But let's again, story-wise, I don't know that we need to, unless you want to get into some of the goofy crap that they did just to
no.
to stick to like,
it's all great.
The stuff with the guns and that he can't shoot them and why he can't shoot them. Well, because he's in his home base. He can't shoot when you're in your own base. You're never allowed to.
No, maybe the seed of what we will get into with the ending comes at the moment, because they do discover that Taika Waititi has stolen their code and put it into Free City, even though he said he wouldn't, and used that to populate the AI to again, I don't know if I have the terminology correct, but also I don't know if the movie probably does, even if it doesn't speak it out loud, but uses that AI to build the NPCs in Free City.
Yeah, it creates the world in Free City.
And that is illegal. That was in breach of contract. Like whatever agreement they did have, he wasn't going to do that. So they quickly discover, not quickly, maybe halfway through the movie, that Guy is not a player character, that he is this artificial intelligence manifestation within the game. So from that moment on, they basically know that he is budding sentience, right? They know that he is... Right. In fact, I want to say they pretty pointedly speak to each other about it and admit that and understand it, right? At least to the point that I did.
I think she has to. Is there a scene, or am I just thinking in my head that she proves it to him? Like she takes him into the game.
Yeah, well, so I was talking about Joe Keery and Jodie Comer talk about it and acknowledge it. But right. Then, yes, the scene I'm getting to, which is the seed of what I don't like about the ending, is where she has to tell Guy that that's the case. And when she does that, she does it by telling him that he's not real and that his world isn't real, even though that was what they just figured out. And that's what's so grand about this entire thing, is that he is real. Right. Like that's the point, is that he isn't just fake AI. He is literally the ghost in the machine. He is the next step. He is the evolution. And
he's the evolution, right?
The movie completely minces that. Like in her dialogue to him, she's just like, "You're not real." And then he goes into his existential crisis, like, "I'm not real. This isn't real." And it's the dip in the movie before, we get back up to the third act. So that part sucked.
It's the second act suck. That's what they call it.
That is it. Yes, the second act suck. The second act suck happens, and it's funny because he becomes a troll about it. He kind of goes through the it's not Groundhog Day moment, because that's however many acts for the stages of grief. Right. But he goes through that where it's kind of just like none of this matters. Then what does anything matter, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But then through a discussion with Lil Rel, comes to realize that, well, and this is where it might recover a little bit in my eyes. I believe Lil Rel says something along the lines of, if it's not real, like this moment is, like, you're my friend, this is real no matter what,
it's
right?
Happening, right?
And that's fantastic. Like that I love, because truly it is, where it kind of flips everything on its head, where Jodie Comer's like, you're not real, so none of this is real. And he flips it around and is like, well, this moment is real, so everything else is, so I am too, essentially.
It's a great
neat moment.
It's a great moment of realization for sure.
And that leads up to Taika is trying to retake control because he realizes more and more what's going on. So because Free Guy has developed a following within the game and without, like he's become a celebrity of sorts because Jodie Comer told him that he needed to level up. So he basically just goes around leveling up by thwarting all of the edgelords in the game, like by finding all of the jags in GTA. And
it's so perfect. It's
great.
It's a really funny and novel way of turning that concept on its head, oh, now the AI is going to level up. Normally the AI is just given a level and that's that. Oh, cool. Now the AI is getting stronger and it's fighting back. Great. Just what I needed in my stupid GTA game.
That's true. Would absolutely be a nightmare for anybody playing the game.
But I mean, to be fair, if you're playing the game, the cops in that game are extremely you looked at me wrong. Attack, 5 stars, kill.
But it's cool because the movie actually begins by saying something about heroes, right? Like guys like that's the hero, and it's actually Channing Tatum as he drives around killing people, killing NPCs. And like for a second up front, I'm like, oh, is this movie going to have something to say about quote unquote the hero? And I don't know if on the whole the movie does necessarily, but they do come back to it, I think, in this moment where Guy becomes the hero by essentially doing the opposite of all of the actual, heroes, what the game has told, or what, Taika Waititi's game has told people are the heroes. So there's something in there about that, I'm sure, but I don't think the movie is necessarily going deep in any of those directions.
Right.
And I'm trying to just get to the point where Taika realizes, what is Taika's character's name? If I could use that. It's like Antword or something. Antoine. Sorry.
That's right. His name is Antoine.
So Antoine's in full, shut it down mode. Although, and this is where maybe a little bit more fudging needs to happen. He doesn't just pull the plug. And yes, at the beginning, he's trying to have the best of both worlds because Free Guy is bringing a lot of people to the game. He's a celebrity. So he's like, oh, this is great. But then when he realizes what's actually happening, he's like, oh no, shut it down. And they don't just shut it down. It's in steps, first they kick out all the players.
Yeah.
And then they reboot the server or something like that.
Because they're going to upgrade it. They're going to change that. They were going to migrate everybody, right? Or no, was he just shutting everything down? Because he was just mad.
Yeah, no, because in fact, at some point he said they were going to delete the first game completely after they released the sequel.
Right.
Another fantastic move by game CEO. But I don't mind it so much, that he didn't just pull the plug to stop the whole thing, because I feel like it gave the virtual world weight.
Sure. Yeah.
There might still have to be some suspension going on there, but I think it works, especially because you are at this point so invested in Guy and Lil Rel and all of the NPCs. I don't know if this is past the point of him having that big discussion, like leading the NPC revolution, essentially having his Braveheart moment in front of that crowd. I don't know if this comes before or after that, but for that reason, I kind of don't mind that they don't just pull the plug and they do kind of draw it out in ways that seem fine. I don't actually have a problem with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's, the reality of those situations is when they're going to shut stuff off, they tell everybody, months in advance, and then people sit around and they get online and they stand in their favorite ports or whatever, and they all talk on chat and then
well, even that in an emergency he can't just turn it off or unplug it or whatever, I'm sure there's any number of ways besides taking an axe to the server racks one at a time in the basement.
Which again is, from a visual standpoint, that's just so stupid. I get it, but it's so only from an IT guy perspective, from somebody who works it, oh man, that's the dream. Right. I want to do that. But
that's the only way to shut them down as far as I know.
Yeah, and then set them on fire and walk away. Eventually the fire control will kick on and it'll hopefully nuke the broken open servers. But
wow, you have thought about this. And then the Freon will be released and it's a zero oxygen environment. So
I'll stay in there.
I will die. Yeah.
As a hero. I've destroyed the data center. I am the hero.
Oh boy. So I don't mind any of that at all.
Yeah, it's fine. Whatever.
Totally fine. It turns into they cancel all the player accounts, so it's literally just Guy and the NPCs left in the game. Oh, I guess at one point they reboot the server, and Guy has lost his memory of the whole thing, so Jodie Comer needs to trigger it again, and it's done by a kiss. And I won't lie, that moment got me. Like I loved that. Like the whole whatever. What was that? Like 3D wires flying off him when
the
they
wireframe.
the
wireframe. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Whatever. So then they cancel all the players' accounts, and it's just Guy and his buddies in there, and they're literally physically running towards the hidden code to expose it to everybody else.
Right, because they can see the island that they created or whatever.
Yeah, which it's the game before was not called Free Life. I think that's what they ended up calling it afterwards. But anyway, this leads to Guy versus Dude.
Guy versus Dude.
My gosh, like I don't know if this ever happened if Disney hadn't done the acquisition and then there wasn't the whole bump in COVID, because he pulls out a lightsaber like Captain America's shield. We get a freaking Chris Evans cameo.
The Chris Evans cameo. Hey, what the hell?
Oh, it's
there are actually
also
a
good.
lot of cameos.
I don't care.
Hugh Jackman's in there. Tina Fey.
Wait, what?
John Krasinski pops up in the background. The Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, he's in there. Yeah.
Really?
There are a ton of cameos that are way background stuff. Yeah.
Is this like Stormtrooper cameos where they're in a costume and I don't recognize them? Or
I think maybe one of them. I feel like I don't think they're wearing full masks. I feel like they're wearing those things, you know, the eye masks.
I gotta watch it again.
Yeah, you just gotta watch in the background. It's again, it's one of those weird things that like the only reason I knew is because I looked at IMDb at one point. I was flipping through it and I went, oh, okay, they were in there.
Anyway, yeah, Guy versus Dude. Guy is this. In fact, at first I was like, well, why don't all of the employees of that corporation just log in? And it would be all those employees against Guy. Well, they go with load up the program that we've created, which is Dude, which is this super buff dude with Ryan Reynolds' face, and he's unfinished, so he keeps like
he only has a few
placeholder lines. Yeah. Loved it all. Really loved it all.
It was super funny.
And I guess that honestly just leaves my unhappiness with the ending. So if there's anything else you want to talk about.
Nope. I think we're both going to agree. I think the ending is where this movie falls apart. Falls apart. I won't say fall apart, I guess, but it's
I wouldn't actually go that far either.
In every
but
respect.
Tell me what you think, which might be what you think I think. But what do you think?
I don't know, man. So the entire, I guess.
Because Jodie Comer or Millie and Guy have kissed at this point, which is a great moment too. Like they're obviously like loving on each other.
There's something there, but she also recognizes that he's an AI, and then so the ending of this movie is Joe Keery is like, okay, I'm finally gonna tell her I love her and I want to be with her and all this, and instead of telling her that and she reiterating it back to him or anything, she goes, oh, you know what? I'm going to go hop into the game real quick to break up with Guy because he's been interfering in their relationship, or I don't know. The ending was clumsy as all hell. Let's go with that.
It may have also been a little clumsy, but here's my main issue. They completely chicken out.
Instead of having her go for it?
Instead of having her and Guy end up together, because Guy is real, period. Like, I know why they didn't do that. Obviously, that would have been unsatisfying to probably everybody else in the world who, hasn't just talked about the sentience and whatever for the last hour. The fact that they, because Millie and Joe Keery's character, Keys, the whole thing being that, we haven't seen what's right in front of us the whole time, because yes, they love each other and all this stuff. And yes, they even get a cool little moment where they run to each other through traffic and everything's fine. Like it almost belongs in a different movie, honestly.
That whole ending was just, dumb.
But then it kind of works because Guy gets the same moment with Lil Rel, so
which is very funny. Yeah.
they almost fix it, but they don't, because I really honestly do believe they chickened out, and the real true movie was Guy ending up with Millie, because they try to write it off because Joe Keery created the code and it was a love letter to her the whole time. And in fact, I want to say even Guy says that at one point. He's like, I'm just a love letter to you. And I'm like, no, you're not.
That's exactly.
You're alive.
yeah, you were, and then you grew up.
So that was the one thing that everybody will maybe think I'm crazy for.
Yeah,
but
I think the issue overall becomes how do you rectify that though? Because it's okay, great. So they're together. You end the movie with them together. So is she just gonna become an emaciated creature that never leaves the virtual world to live with Guy forever?
There's definitely another movie that needs to happen.
Or does she go, okay, Guy, honey, I've got to go for a little while, aka live my real life. I'll see you later. But
that would have been the beauty of it, though, because what is that? That's what really gets your mind racing, is when the movie ends right there, and you're like, "What? Like, how does that
work?" Because she and then in the next movie, my hope is that she is on an IV and a feeding tube, and she's just she's
the
like
episode of South Park where they're playing WoW,
and she's like growing. Like this is 5 years later, and now she's got wires coming out of her because she's becoming a
This still sounds
she's
awesome.
becoming a server. She's becoming an actual server that they're gonna have to like USB load things onto.
That's true, because I feel like if that movie got made again, it would go one of two ways, right? She needs to enter the game, or he needs to leave the game.
Yeah,
right?
He either is going to Wonder Woman it and everybody's going to cry rape because he's taking over somebody's body, or she has to lawnmower man this situation and everybody's going to get, because they're going to say, well, where's Pierce Brosnan? And
none of the examples I expected to illustrate those points, but I'm so happy I got them. Fantastic. I obviously would say to watch this movie regardless as many times as you need to.
It is a total, like, when you're not trying to watch it critically in any respect, okay, that's not true. When you're not watching it the way we're watching it, amazing movie.
Even if you don't have the very specific problems that we have with it.
When I watch it a second time, I will definitely watch it intoxicated and unable to comprehend it even a little bit, and it's going to be the best movie ever.
And I hope you're furious at the end.
I will be fast and furious.
Oh, boy. I would still give it 9. I keep giving things some multiple of 9 stars. So 800 stars. Go listen to the tapes. It's true. 893 stars. I still put a 9 in there.
896.
Perfect. Love it. That is Free Guy. Thank you.
That was Free Guy.
And Matt Amberg, if you watched it, let us know what you think. I really would just love to endlessly talk about whatever insane theories or whatever you have about Free Guy.
I'm not gonna lie. Somebody, look, viewers, head over to the Patreon, check it out. There's a whole tier you can join in on so that you can come on the show and we can have debates.
Oh, there you go. Sure, yeah.
Do it. Come on, let's do it.
Or you can find us on Facebook and Twitter, or podcast at bookclubformovies.com.
Yeah.
But the Patreon, you're right.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you go there? If you've liked any of this, please help us do more of it.
Yeah. Newsletter's coming soon. You guys should get that here. Patrons should actually, I think, have it by the time this episode comes out.
Very possible. I don't think this comes out today.
Oh, no, yeah.
Thursday. We're recording a little late in the week. So.
Yeah, no. Patrons will have it by the next episode, the next full episode, which, by the way, Ryan, what is the next movie we're going to do?
Well,
this is on you, friend.
Oh, boy. The next show we're going to do, yes, I do believe will be out today and only on the Patreon. And it's going to be that Blair Witch follow-up.
Yes.
Where we talk with my daughter because she believes the movie is real at this point, as far as I know. But it'll start off with a little bit of our experience with that original film. So a little bit of the ween outside of the seas.
We're zipping up the weens.
And
but what's the next movie we're doing the book club for movies show.
Yes,
For book
what is
club
the
for
next
movies
movie?
classic.
I
None of
don't
this new
remember.
Coke stuff. It's really on you, man.
Is it like I've pitched it and I've forgotten about it already, or
no? I had asked you if you would be interested in doing Dune,
Dune? You're right.
but
Forgot it. Okay.
but that's
Yes.
completely based around your ability to.
No, I think I got it. Yeah, it's Thursday. That gives me a cool 3-ish days to go.
to watch each hour of it. To watch each
Okay,
hour.
you're right. You're right.
It's
Is it Snyderverse? Is it like a Snyder cutted? You know, did they make it
Absolutely
palatable now?
not.
No. Okay, great.
No. This is a sit down and I have newsletter patrons. You're gonna get a good chunk on my feelings of Dune.
A preview.
What I will say is that movie was a treat for me, and I think I've said this now in a number of places, but for me, Dune is akin to Lord of the Rings for Tolkien fans. Like when those movies came out, I saw them, loved them, didn't care about the books. In fact, I will be the first person to stand up and say, I hate the books. I can't, I think they're, I'm going to say it. This is controversial. I
A
think
little wordy.
I think the books are garbage. They're
Oh,
poor.
well, okay. All right.
No,
Yeah, that
look,
might be.
here's the thing. They're poorly written, and I'll explain why I feel this way. And it's because I feel Tolkien's he was a linguist. So coming up with the Elven language, all the Silmarillion stuff, amazing that the world building he did, the story that he told, it's a simple story that is well understood. It's written, it's garbage. The writing in that book, the prose is garbage.
Yeah, I don't know how common of a belief that is. I have heard of Tolkien critics, obviously, but yeah, it is. Having read the books myself, I don't know what kind of structure necessarily you would be talking about there. It just goes on. Like you get the feeling he's just going on, and I like the books too, so I'm not even saying that's bad. But yeah, I don't know.
And
yeah. Okay.
It's the same thing though here, where like this is a series where up until so I read almost all the books. There's a
The
point,
Dune books?
the Dune books. There's a point where I did stop because Frank Herbert died, and
I was gonna say, yeah, they weren't all by him.
no,
right?
that his son took over, and his son has written some interesting stuff for sure. Their comic that's running right now is Dune House Atreides, and it's a prequel to where we'd be here, where Dune starts. It's actually about Oscar Isaac, who's Duke Leto. It's about his father, and it's about him as a child growing up, becoming the Duke. He actually, in the books, he just became the Duke. So he's learning how to be the Duke and how to deal with all the intergalactic stuff, and it's very cool.
I smell a companion show.
Oh man, if you get, I'll tell you this much: if you like the movie enough, I will be happy to go through all of my stupid crap with it, because the other thing I can say without a doubt is I truly cannot wait. I am so excited for the sequel, for the completion, because this is what I wanted it to be. Now I can say also there are some things that I don't love about it. There are things that I will honestly say I liked the Lynch version better in, but I loved what Villeneuve did, and I look very forward to having the discussion about it, and then also talking about why the sequels to Dune, why Dune Messiah and Children of Dune will never be made.
Love it. Can't wait to learn it all for the first time. On Book Club for Movies, everybody, thank you. As always, please, it's patreon.com/Book Club for Movies if you feel so inclined. We'll see you next week. I think we're going to forgo the rest of the show. We're going to do that little follow-up show with my daughter right now, and I think we've been going on for an hour already about Free Guy. So, not unexpected, but enough.
The freest of guys.
Oh, goodbye.
Okay, bye.
Believe it or not.